part 5. Okay, when last we left off, we were talking about Hitler. In order to discuss him more, we got to talk about the swastika. Hitler adopts the swastika because he feels it is a symbol of Aryan might and power, of Aryan strength. Everywhere else in the world where the swastika shows up, it is a good luck thing. It is the kind of thing that is a symbol that you see in America. It's the kind of symbol you see in India, China, and of course in Europe, and that's where Hitler gets it from. He says, it's good luck, but it's also strength and power. And it's a powerful symbol. I mean, the fact that you can, put it up now and people immediately have a visceral reaction, a gut reaction, tells you something about the strength of it. And he sets it, he fancies himself an artist, as you might recall from the last part, and he sets it on a white circle on a blood red flag. He described it as a blood red flag, symbolizing the blood of the German people. Pardon me. And Hitler is going to utilize this. He has two real groups that he forms. First is the Sturmarbeitung, the stormtroopers, who are the brown shirts. And then later on, he has the black-suited SS, or Schutzstaffel, which are really modeled after the Roman Praetorian Guard. It's an elite fighting force. In order to be in the SA, originally it was just, these were guys that joined up with him who were happy to cause trouble in town, to break up communist meetings and beat up communists and beat up people they didn't like, including Jews. Hitler adopts these guys, the brown shirts, which were led by a guy named Ernst Röhm, another ex-soldier. A lot of these SA, by the way, were ex-soldiers that had been put out of work by the Treaty of Versailles. And the most skilled and racially pure were folded into the SS, which was not run by Rome, which was instead run by Heinrich Himmler. The SS were the true believers. They had to pass tests that proved that they were of racial purity, that they had no Jewish blood. That meant, like, if your grandfather on one side was Jewish, disqualified. Then you would be a mischling of mixed blood, according to Hitlerian theory. Hitler spoke on race a lot. This was kind of his thing. I'm sure you've heard, Hitler was racist. But in case you didn't get that, Hitler equated communism and Judaism. Here's a quote from Mein Kampf. If, with the help of his Marxist creed, the Jew is victorious over the other peoples of the world, his crown will be the funeral wreath of humanity, and this planet will, as it did thousands of years ago, move through the ether devoid of men. I'm not sure what Hitler thought the Jew was doing this for, because really it's a very self-defeating philosophy, but I guess if you're racist and ignorant, you don't have to have a meaning for it. So Hitler is basically predicting that the Jew wants to take over all the other countries and bring them down and destroy everything. Okay. No, they don't, but okay. Whatever, Hitler, you're stupid and racist. So he actually justified his actions, his racism, through the Catholic Church. He says, hence today I believe I am acting in accordance with the will of the Almighty Creator. By defending myself against the Jew, I am fighting for the work of the Lord. Keep in mind, this is a different time period. Nowadays, it is a much more enlightened time than it was even in the 1930s and 40s. The Catholic creed for a long time regarding Jews was to not kill them, but to make them suffer. Luther, of course, Martin Luther of the Lutheran faith, he said, hey, we should take these Jews and put them in concentration camps. That would not be the word he'd use, but he basically said labor camps. He said how wretched they were and terrible. So it was definitely a prevailing attitude back then that by doing, by being racist to the Jew, that was definitely something that was okay. Now, today, nobody holds this view, and nobody expected Hitler's ultimate consequences of this, which was the idea that Hitler would be actually murdering all the Jews in Europe, or at least trying to. But that was certainly kind of that part was kept under wraps. Hitler didn't advertise that stuff. He tended to emphasize the more popular stuff, like, hey, let's be mean to them, that sort of. And he certainly wasn't the first, nor was he the last politician to try to use race to gather followers. As far as militarily, Hitler wished to acquire something he called Lebensraum for his master race. A little rhyme to remember that is living space for the master race. He basically said, hey, our German nation is overcrowded. We need territory. And he had a point. They did have a lot of people there. Germany had been made smaller by the fact that they had lost World War I. Now, his solution is to take it away from other countries. Now, he wasn't totally open about that, but in Mein Kampf, there are some pretty strong allusions to it if you're digging. He basically says Eastern Europe is where we should look for our Lebensraum, for our living space for our master race, and we should take that land over. And that, combined with his racist stuff we already talked about, really should give you a sense of where he's going with that. He wants to take over Eastern Europe, wipe out all the people he considers subhuman, that he thought weren't even worthy of life, and then replace them with, in his eyes, good Aryan people. He is terrible, but hopefully we already knew that. Hitler is very fond of spectacle. One of his chief ministers, the propaganda minister, Joseph Goebbels, if you want to Americanize it, is very, very fond of spectacle. One time, someone complains to Goebbels that they rented a chauffeur, or a limousine, to arrive at a party meeting. And Goebbels says, you know what we should have done is rent two, one for me and one for my briefcase. His idea was that when you stage these gigantic rallies, when you project that you have power and wealth follow you. Their art, as with Mussolini's fascist modern art, has Aryan ideals. You got these strong, muscular fellows. Physical fitness is very important. And if you think about it, Hitler wants to conquer Eastern Europe, so you don't get that on the couch. He says, you guys got to be fit. We got to be strong. And it fits with his philosophy. It really fits with Mussolini's as well. The whole idea of power, and your nation comes from having power. Hitler portrays himself as a knight on horseback. This here is the horse, in case you can't see it. This is where the horsey's face would be. And Hitler is literally wearing white armor, a white knight, carrying his swastika flag. Now, footnote, if you take a gander right up here at his face, he has like a scar there. This is because America was the first one to find this portrait, and an American soldier stabbed it with a knife. That is America. You see Hitler, even in a picture, you stab it. Hitler's relationship with religion is complicated and well debated. Basically, Hitler, himself a Catholic, although I don't think anyone on earth would say that he was a good Catholic. He was probably more Catholic in name only. But he tries to get along fairly well, and he treats the Catholics pretty well. Having said that, how much did they know about what he was doing? There are entire books written about this, and frankly, many of them are very rough on the Catholics. I think it's a bit unfair. I've got a picture here on the right of Pius XII, who was Pope at the same time as Hitler was doing everything he was doing. That includes everything from prior to World War II, to during, to the Holocaust, to all of that. And Pius does not seem like he was okay with what Hitler was doing. Now, the time period, as I said before, Catholics were not very nice, to put it mildly, to the Jews. But I do not think, based on what I have read, that Pius XII was aware of Hitler's actions during the Holocaust. And supposedly, when Pius XII heard about what had happened, he actually broke down and cried. There are lots of defenses about this on the internet, and there are also lots of attacks. This is not the place for it, but it's definitely worth noting that Hitler had a tumultuous relationship with the Catholic Church, and the nature of which we don't exactly know. And we're going to stop there before we get to Joseph Stalin. We'll do that in the next part, part 6. I hope this was helpful. I hope it's helpful for me to divide it up like this. Be back in a little bit.